I'm just following the trail back.
Stuff like that drives me crazy.
I just was like, wait.
It's like, put it in the right slot.
I pulled it out and like it's 24. I'm like, wait. Somebody's already.
All right. Okay, this is lesson 3.1. Your homework comes from part of the textbook, part of the workbook you fixed up, or worksheet. Don't write on the worksheet. Do it all on the separate paper. Follow the correct format. It's due on Wednesday. Between Wednesday and Friday, you don't have anything you have to do. Okay? Okay, we have almost an hour. I would love to finish. Let's see if that's going to happen. I'm sorry? Can anybody tell what she's saying? Okay. Is Grace here? Okay. Are you still there? I think they need you. You do. Okay. You do whatever you want. Great, honey. Okay. So relation. I don't think that relation is ever going to come up. I have gone through this material on this course over and over and over, and I pretty much have a super good idea of what's something you're going to see on a midterm or final and something you're not, and I think relation is probably not something that's ever going to come up. Okay, function, I think will. Okay, so you have to know what a function is. So technically, you should all have a highlighter. You should all hopefully have the correct calculator. If your cell phone's on your desk, I need you to put it all the way in your bag, okay? So cell phones are never on desks, okay? So something is a function if each element in the first set corresponds to exactly one element in the second set, okay? So if everything in the first column goes to just one thing in the second. An easy way to say it is that no x values repeat. If the x values repeat, then it is no longer a function, okay? Domain. So domain is what comes in, and the range is what comes out. So the domain is typically the set of x values, and the range is typically the set of y values, okay? Is this relation a function? If it is a function, list the domain and list the range, okay? So here we go with the first one. You guys look at this line right here. It starts at a 1 and it goes to a 1. So that would be the ordered pair 1, 1. The next line starts at a 2 and it goes to a 5. That would be 2, 5. The next one starts at a 3 and goes to a 4. The next one starts at a 4 and goes to a 5. Now, if this were on your homework, you wouldn't need to write that down. They didn't ask you to write it as a list of steps or ordered pairs. I just did that so that you would understand. I want you to put braces around it because it's a set of things. And now we have to see if it's a function. So if you look, 1, 2, 3, 4, everybody tell me, is it a function? Yes, it is. The reason it's a function is because nothing repeats. So your first answer is yes. So that's why we highlight, so we can find our answers very quickly. You guys, you have a quiz next week. You don't have a quiz this week, but you do have a quiz next week. And when you take that quiz on Friday of next week, I will have it back in your hands when you walk in on Tuesday. So I turn things around very quickly. And I do that because you want to know, like, how did I do? Have you guys ever taken a test and you don't, it's like 2 weeks later and you're like, I wish I knew what I got on that test. Who's done that before? Okay, it's not going to happen in here. So I'm fast. And so your highlighting helps me to grade quickly, okay? Okay, so they said if it is a function, find the domain and the range. So everybody go D equals and put a brace, and you list all those things which are 1, 2, 3, and 4, and close it off in a brace. Brace means it's a set of things. The range is just the list of all the y values, which are 1, 5, 4. There's another 5, so should I list it again or not list it again? Not list it again. So close it off in braces. So you highlight the answer. So yes, it's a function, that's an answer. Domain is an answer. range is an answer, so that's what you highlight. And technically there is not even any work for that because I told you didn't even have to write it as an ordered pair, as ordered pairs, okay? Look at question B. 0, 1, 2, 2. Everybody in the room, is this a function? No. So you just write it, highlight it, done, easy. Okay? Okay, question 2. Question 2 is a little bit tougher. It sounds kind of confusing. Determine whether the equation defines y as a function of x. So in an easier way to say it, all they're saying, is this a function? That's all they're asking. Okay? So there are two different ways to do this. I will typically just show you one way to do something. It's the easiest way. Sometimes I have to show two ways. So method 1, you're going to take the equation and you're going to solve for y. Then the second thing you're going to do is to graph it. You guys, if you have a graph and you're trying to determine if it's a function, how can you determine if it's a function? What do? The vertical line test, yeah. So vertical line test, and then you'd be done. But guys, what if you don't know how to graph it? Or what if you think you know, but you're not sure? Don't take the risk if you don't know. So what if you don't know how to graph it? You're going to solve it for y. And then, this is really strange, but it works. So just go with it. You're going to ask yourself, could I put this in my graphing calculator as one equation? If the answer is a yes, it's a yes. If the answer is no, it's a no. Okay? So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go to question 2. On both scenarios, you're going to solve for y, no matter which method you're using. So everybody go, y equals negative 7x plus 5. Do you know what that graph looks like? Talk to me. Yes or no? Everybody? Yes. What is it? It's a line. Okay, so just draw an xy axis. And this graph does not have to be super accurate. So you're going to go up 5, maybe something like that. Then you're going to go down 7, which puts you below the x-axis, and then right 2. So your line's going to be something about like that. Okay? And like I said, it doesn't have to be, you know, super accurate. It's just an idea. So everybody look at that graph. Is it a function? Yes, it is. Now, it's asking you to justify your answer. You're going to have to write sentences in here occasionally. So when you do, you have to do a capital, punctuation, subject, verb, all that stuff. I'm just going to say it passes the vertical line test. And that's it. The graph is part of the answer. So if you're saying it passes the vertical line test, then you really need to be showing a graph. It doesn't make sense to say it passes the vertical line test and not give me a graph. You know, that doesn't make sense. Okay, let's go with the next one. Solve it for y. So you have y equals negative x squared plus 1. Remember when I ask a question to you guys, when I just throw out a question, I want you guys to all the answer and just shout out the answer so everybody's actively involved. Do you know how to graph that? Yes. You do, right? What is it? It's a parabola. Everybody tell me what that plus 1 does to your parabola. Shifts it up 1, and what does the negative do? Makes it up and down, right? So let's just do a quick sketch, okay? So it looks like this, and your graph is going to look something about like that. So that was pretty easy. I was confident. I knew how to do it, so I chose to graph. Is that a function, everybody? Yes, it is. So we're just going to say yes, and the justification is the same. It passes the vertical line test. I used to see these fairly often on midterms and finals, and not so much anymore. I'm not saying that it won't be there. I just say that it's not very probable, is my opinion. You will see it on mine. My quizzes and my tests will be very thorough so that I get you ready for all the stuff you need to do. Okay? Solve this for y. So you have y squared equals 1 minus x. You could put negative x plus 1. I think it looks nicer and cleaner to put 1 minus x. What do you do now? Square root. So you have y equals, you guys tell me what comes right after the equals? Plus or minus, because you took the square root, right? 1 minus x. Do you know how to graph that? I bet if we reviewed a little, you could remember, but is it worth the risk? You know, to me, it's not worth the risk. It's too weird. It's a sideways parabola is what it is. It's a sideways parabola that looks like that, opens to the left. But it's too weird and it's too hard, so let's not even worry about it. And then just go with method B. Could I put that in my graphing calculator as one equation? No, I can't. Why not? Because the plus or minus. Okay, now you can't use a graphing calculator in here, but that question works, so, you know, the answer is no. Okay, here's your justification, okay? Not every element in the domain corresponds to, that just means goes to, I guess, only one element in the range. And you might be like, what in the world is she talking about? So let me show you. Do an XY table and let X be a -8. So guys, look, if I put a -8 right there, it would be 1 minus a -8, which is 1 plus 8, which is 9. So it's the square root of 9, which is 3, but you have the plus or minus in front of it. So if you put in a -8, you get a 3. But if you put in a -8, you also get a -3 because of that plus or minus. And now you've got repeating x's, therefore it's no longer a function. Who says got it? Let me see up high. Raise your hand. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to highlight this because that's the answer Waller's going to be looking for, and we're good to go. Okay, question D is weird. You'll notice as we do things, it'll start easy, and then I'll start throwing little twists in there, okay? So question D, the absolute value of y equals 1 minus x. You could put -x plus 1, it doesn't matter, okay? Now, how do we deal with this? Go off to the side and let's talk for just a second. If you had the absolute value of x equals 4, that would mean x could be, tell me, +4 or -4, right? Well, we're going to follow the same procedure. So if you know how to do it in a simple way, you can apply that to a tougher way. So that y could be the positive of that, which means leave it alone, or the y could be the negative of that. What do you think the negative of that means, guys? The opposite signs, yeah, change the signs. So a -1 and a plus x. So now your one absolute value has turned into 2 equations. Can I put those 2 equations in my graphing calculator as one equation? No. So is this a function? No, it's not. And I would just duplicate that phrase. Not every element in the domain corresponds to only one element in the range. It doesn't have to be verbatim. You know, you can change a little bit of the words, but if you don't know what you're saying, I'm going to be able to tell if you say it in a strange way that doesn't make sense. Okay, so get as close as you can. Okay, now we're going to deal with function notation a little bit. Starts off easy, gets tougher. So look right here. This is f of x right there in pink. Yellow is g of x. And those are the only 2 I have, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is find f of 3. So look what you do, guys. You go into this pink f of x equation, and wherever you see an x, you're going to put in a 3. So everybody go 3 times 3 plus 1. Okay, grab that calculator that you bought. Hopefully you bought it. If not, you need to get it purchased by the first day of school, by quiz 1, I mean. And if not, then you don't get a calculator in your quiz, which is going to be a big bummer. Okay, now I think you can all look at that and know that the answer is 10. Okay, so everybody just put a 10, that's acceptable, highlight your answer and you're done. Let me just show you how to input it into your calculator. You're going to love this calculator because that's why I had you buy this one, because it's so easy to put everything in. So just go 3 parentheses 3, close it, plus 1, hit enter, there's your 10. You could do it that way if you wanted to. okay? Okay, let's do g of negative 3. So right here and right here, I'm going to put in a negative 3. Guys, put the negative 3 in parentheses, okay? So everybody go equals. Notice how I'm writing this up, okay? So that's going to be 3, and then in parentheses, negative 3, and then it's squared like that, plus parentheses, negative 3 minus 4, okay? What am I supposed to do first? What does the order of operations tell me to do first, guys? Not parentheses first. Oh, it is parentheses first. What the heck? Jeez. Parentheses. You know why I said no? Because there are no parentheses to work inside of in this problem. So it's actually exponents. So in my mind, I was thinking exponents because that's the first step on this one. Okay, so anyway, first step you're going to do is right there. So you're going to go 3. A negative 3 times a negative 3 is a positive 9. Positive times a negative is a negative 3 minus 4. Okay, so that's 27 minus 7. A negative 3 and a negative 4 is a negative 7. That's going to give me a 20. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think you have to show all that. I think if you showed the original and then maybe one more line and then your answer, you'd be good. Okay, you could really put the whole thing in and get your answer. I think you should probably show a little more than that. Okay. Okay, question C, find f of x minus 2. So go into that f of x, wherever you see an x, put in an x minus 2. So it's 3 times x minus 2 plus 1. I want you to come maybe like up above, and I want you to write down the word simplify. This is important. Could cause you to miss some points if you don't remember. If they ask you to simplify, that means you should have no more parentheses in your answer, and you should have done everything that can be done to that problem, okay? So is question C simplified? No. Tell me with one word what to do, everybody. Distribute is correct. So you have 3x minus 6 plus 1. That gives me 3x minus 5. That's your answer. Highlight it, and you're done. Okay, let's do the next one. Find g of k plus 1. So go into the g of x, and wherever you see an x, put in a k plus 1. So it goes 3 times k plus 1 squared plus, in parentheses, k plus 1 minus 4. Whatever you're putting in, put in parentheses, so you're careful. Okay, can someone tell me what to do right now? What do I do? How do I simplify this? So what do I do precisely? You're right. Exponents are going to be first. What do I do? You guys are so smart. I've seen your transcripts. What do I do? Tell me. It's not factor. It's actually the opposite of factor, which is to multiply it out. I used to say FOIL, but I think most of your teachers don't teach you the FOIL method anymore. Do they? So I think I've got some and some not. Anyway, you multiply them together. So we're going to do like this. We're going to go k plus 1 times k plus 1. So I'm going to write that twice. See this parentheses around the k plus 1? They really weren't necessary, so I'm going to drop them because it's easier without. Now I'm going to multiply k plus 1 times k plus 1, and I'm going to do it in my head. So k times k is k squared. Then I get a 1k and another 1k, and that gives me a 2k. 1 times 1 is 1, plus k, and I'll even make that a minus 3 right there. See this line right here? You don't have to show that step. You can know that you have to do k plus 1 squared, and you can do it in your head, and you can go straight to that line down there. Now I'm going to distribute. So I have 3k squared plus 6k plus 3 plus k minus 3 combined 3k squared plus 7k. The plus 3 and the minus 3 go away. There's my answer. Highlight it, and I'm done. Who says this is easy? Raise your hand. Let me see how you're feeling. Give me some feedback. Okay, yay. Look right here at E. Find f of negative x. That means go, you guys tell me, don't do it yet. Stick right with me. Go into f of x, and wherever I see an x, put in, tell me, negative x. That's all it means. Very simple, right? So everybody put in equals right there. Make sure your notation looks like mine. So it goes 3 times negative x plus 1. Is that simplified? No, because you have parentheses, right? 3 times negative x is negative 3x plus 1. Highlight it. Done. Good. Next one. Negative g of x. It means write down your g of x and do what to it? Tell me. Multiply everything in negative, which is going to change all the signs. But I want you to go negative parenthesis. Then write down your g of x. And now in the next line, I want you to change all the signs. And you've got it. You guys, sometimes I'm going to make you write something down. And you're going to say, why is she having me write this down? Because I can just go to the next one. You guys, I know what Weber State's going to expect you to do, and that's what I expect. So you'll be ready for all those tests you're going to take, okay? Okay, this is a big one right here. Finding domain. So I want you to like highlight it. I want you to put stars around it. I want you to tell yourself this is important. People get confused, so I have to pay very close attention to this as I'm doing it. Let's add one more. Okay, find the domain. This is what I'm going to say to you every single time we have a problem like this. I'm going to say, when you're finding domain, how many things do you have to look for? And everybody in here, your response is going to be 2. You look for 2 things, okay? One of them is a fraction, okay? So everybody write down y equals 1 over x. It's a fraction that has an x on the bottom. Somebody tell me what x cannot be right here in that. X can't be 0. So everybody say x cannot be 0. Underneath where it says fractions, I want you to write the bottom cannot be 0. The denominator cannot be 0. Now let's make it a little tougher. Everybody add another example. And I want you to go y equals 1 over 2x minus 5. If that were your problem, and they were saying find the domain, you would write down the bottom, 2x minus 5, and you would say, I know that can't be 0. Okay, write this with me. So you would say 2x cannot be 5. You would divide by 2, so you would know the domain is x cannot be equal to 5/2. Very simple, right? You just have to remember how to set it up. Okay, the other thing you have to look for is an even root. This is an even root. Look, over here, make your root, and what little number goes right there, but we never have to write it?
2.
A 2. That's an even root. 4th root is an even root. 6th root is an even root. 8th root is an even root. It's a root that has an even number in there. Okay, so let me show you an example. Everybody go y equals the square root of x. Tell me what x cannot be. Can't be a what?
Negative.
Can't be a negative, because then we're going to have imaginaries, and we're not there yet. So it can't be a negative. Can it be a 0? Is the square root of 0 a thing? Is it okay? Let's try. Let's try. Everybody go second on your calculator. Then go down like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons and hit the x squared. Then put in a 0 and then hit enter. We didn't get an error. So x can be 0. So it's okay for x to be 0. So we're going to say x must be greater than or equal to 0. So if you have an even root, you take the inside and you state that it must be greater than or equal to 0. Let me give you an example. The y equals the square root of 3x minus 1. Find the domain. Do I have a fraction with an x on the bottom? No. Do I have an even root? Yes. So I write the inside, 3x minus 1, and state that it must be greater than or equal to 0. Then I solve it. So 3x must be greater than or equal to 1. Divide, x must be greater than or equal to 1/3. That's my domain, and I'm done. Okay, so here's what you have to remember. Here's what I would highlight. If you have a fraction, the bottom can't be 0. If you have an even root, the inside must be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, here we go with question 4, nice and slowly. Look at the equation. Everybody in the room answer this question. When you're finding domain, how many things do you look for? Tell me. 2. One is a fraction. Do I have a fraction right there inside that box that has an x on the bottom? No. Do I have an even root? Do I have this symbol anywhere in that problem? No. So the domain is, I don't have any restrictions, therefore the domain is, somebody tell me, all real numbers. Here's how you're going to do all real numbers in here. You're going to do an 11 and then turn it into an R. But you have to read the directions. The directions said to write it in interval form. Interval form is that parenthesis bracket business, okay? So all real numbers in interval form is going to be negative infinity to infinity with parentheses, and you're done. That just means everything. Okay, let's do question B. Find the domain. I look for how many things, everybody? 2 things. Everybody in the room tell me, do I have a fraction with an x on the bottom? No. Do I have an even root? Yes, I do. So see in that box where we wrote it? Even root, inside, greater than or equal to 0. So you just go 3x minus 2 greater than or equal to 0. So that gives you 3x is greater than or equal to 2. Divide, x is greater than or equal to 2/3. So it's 2/3 and bigger, but you have to write it in interval form. So it starts at a 2/3. How do I close my 2/3, everybody? With a bracket. How far does it go? Forever, infinity. Can you ever get to infinity? No. So you close it with a parenthesis, highlight your answer, and you're done. Okay? Who says I got it? Let me see really high. I'm good. Okay, great. Look at question C. Do I have, how many things am I watching out for? Tell me. 2. Do I have a fraction with an x on the bottom? Yes, I do. So look what people do. They go x squared minus 5x minus 6 must be greater than or equal to 0. Is that right? What do you put? Cannot be 0. So think about it. Think about what the restriction is. It's just that you can't have a 0 on the bottom. So be careful you know which restriction it is, okay? Tell me with one word what I should do now to solve this. Factor is correct, yes. So the x a second is going to go to an x and an x. The 6 is going to split to a 6 and a 1. The signs are different, and the biggest is going to be a negative, so it goes to a +1 and a -6. Set that equal to 0. That tells me x cannot be a -1. Set that equal to 0. That gives me x cannot be 6. Now everybody listen to this. This is a true story. So I've always thought I need to pull this question out because it's kind of tougher to write a cannot be equal to in interval form. And I'm so glad I didn't, because this came up on a midterm or a final last year for the first time. So let's make a number line so you can really like wrap your brain around this. So do a -1 on the left, do a +6 on the right. You guys, they cannot be equal to those things. So that would mean you have to have an open circle on those to restrict them. But then it's everything else besides those things, right? Now let's write it in interval form. So you start on the left. So tell me where the shading begins on the left. Tell me, what do I put? Negative infinity. And then you go to a -1. Somebody tell me how to close my -1. With a parenthesis. What comes right after the parenthesis? We talked about this last time. A U with no tail. Then you pick it back up at a -1. How do I close that -1? Also a parenthesis. Then it goes to a 6, close with a, talk to me, a parenthesis, and then a U, and then a 6, and it goes to what? Infinity. That was on something last year. I know it was, because I was like, oh, when I saw it, I was worried. Okay, let's do this one, D. Everybody in the room tell me, how many things do I look for? 2. One of them was a fraction on the bottom, or do I have fraction with an x on the bottom? Yes. Look what people write. Look, 2x minus 3 cannot be 0. Think about that. The box says, if you have a fraction, bottom can't be 0. That is not the correct statement. What's wrong with that statement? That would be the right statement if this were your problem. The 2x minus 3 is not what's on the bottom. What's on the bottom? The square root of 2x minus 3. Okay, so be careful. Just because you have a fraction with an x on the bottom doesn't mean you also don't have an even root. You might have both. Do I have an even root? Yes, I do. So we're going to put the word and then remember on the even root, the inside must be greater than or equal to 0. So 2x minus 3 greater than or equal to 0. This equation right here on the left-hand side, tell me what to do to solve that, everybody. Square. So you have 2x minus 3 cannot be 0. Move the 3 over. 2x cannot be 3. Divide by 2. X cannot be equal to 3/2. Do this one. 2x is greater than or equal to 3. Divide by 2. X is greater than or equal to 3/2. So you have x can't be 3/2, and this one's greater than or equal to. So what do you think it is? It's just greater than. You have to drop that symbol. So it's x is greater than 3/2. Now let me show you something. Write a little note to yourself. Okay? If the even root is on the bottom, comma, just do greater than. Just do greater than. Okay? Just do, instead of just do greater than, let's just do inside greater than 0. Okay, so look how much easier it is. You go, oh, I have an even root, but the even root's on the bottom, so I'm going to take the inside and say that it must be greater than 0. Therefore, 2x must be greater than 3. Therefore, x must be greater than 3/2. I would way rather do that than all that, right? And I'm telling you it's okay if you do. So 3/2 and bigger. So that's going to be 3/2 with a parenthesis to infinity with a parenthesis, and we're done. That's it. Okay, who says I'm good? Raise your hand. Let me see how we're doing. Okay, great. Okay, let's move on. So you can add expressions, you can subtract them, you can multiply them, you can divide them. Okay, so we're doing some more function notation right here. Okay, so question A just means take h of x and add it to g of x. That's all it's saying. Okay, so this means h of x added to g of x. So write down your h of x, it's x over x minus 1. Add it to g of x, which is 1 over x minus 1. You guys, what do I have to have in order to add fractions? Tell me. Common denominator. Do I have a common denominator? Yeah. So the bottom's going to stay x minus 1. The top is an x plus 1. I can just add those together, and I'm done. I have a question for you. Can the x on the top cancel with the x on the bottom? Can they? They cannot. The x on the top is not an x. It's an x plus 1. It's stuck to the 1. The x on the bottom is not an x. It's an x minus 1. It's stuck to the negative 1. So no, you cannot do that. That's your answer, and you're done. Now, they also asked me to list domain. 2 things I need to look for. Do I have a fraction with an x on the bottom? Yes. X minus 1 cannot be 0. Do I have an even root anywhere in my problem? No. So if I solve x plus 1 cannot be 0, that tells me x cannot be 1. They didn't tell me what form to write this in, interval, set, inequality. So if they don't tell me, I can write it however I want, as long as it's right. So I'm going to leave it alone and I'm good. Okay? Question B. Take f of x and multiply it by g of x. So take your f of x, which is x squared minus 4. Then I want you to put a dot and multiply it by g of x, which is 1 over x minus 1. Okay? I asked somebody, do you remember, or I asked my classes, do you remember how to multiply fractions? And someone said cross multiply. Cross multiply to me means the top goes to the bottom and the top goes to the bottom. Is that how you do that? This right here? No, what do you do? Straight across, right? So 1 times x squared minus 4 is x squared minus 4. 1 times x minus 1 is x minus 1. Everybody watch for a second. First of all, can I cancel those x's? Yes or no? No. Now, just watch, but don't write this down. X squared plus 4 actually factors to x plus 2x minus 2. Okay? But did that do me any good? Am I now able to cancel something on the top with the bottom? No. And this is not simplified anymore because it has parentheses. So I wouldn't do that, and I would just leave it right here. If that said x squared minus 1 at the top, I would factor it to x plus 1, x minus 1. It would do me some good. So there's my answer. My domain is x cannot be equal to 1 because then I'd have a 0 on the bottom, and I'm good. Okay? Now, these are going to start getting a little bit ugly. So this right here means take your f of x and divide it by your g of x. Okay, so write down your f of x, which is x squared minus 4. Divide it by g of x, which is 1 over x minus 1. It's called a complex fraction, and you need to not be afraid of it. You're going to do lots of fractions in here, so you have to know how to deal with it. Okay, everybody watch this. I'm telling you, this is the key to it right here. See this fraction bar right here? That's the main division bar. That's what I call it, the main division bar. So when you write it here, the main division bar, I want you to make it longer. So you can differentiate the top one, the top division bar from that one, okay? Now what you do is you make that division bar a division symbol. So write it as x squared minus 4, division symbol, 1 over x minus 1. Now, to me, that kind of looks yucky. So I'm going to make it look a little better, and I'm going to put a 1 underneath it like that. Okay? Now, hopefully you remember how to divide fractions. So remember, you leave the first guy the way he is, change your division to a multiplication, and what do? You flip it upside down. Okay? And now you're just multiplying those. You guys, the bottom's going to be a 1, so I'm not even going to write it down. I'm going to FOIL or multiply the top together. If it makes more sense to you, you can do that, so you can kind of visualize it. When you multiply them together, it's x to the third minus x to the second minus 4x plus 4. You're done. That's your answer. Find the domain. I have no fractions with x on the bottom. I have no even roots. Therefore, my domain is everything, and I'm done. Okay, who says, I feel really good about this lesson? Let's see, raise your hand. Okay, yay. Okay, this one right here. We're going to write this as g of x divided by h of x. So write down your g of x, which is 1 over x minus 1. Then a big division bar, because that's where the main one's going, okay? And then your h of x on the bottom, x over x minus 1. Does Weber State really do this to you? Yes, they do, and it even is a little bit more difficult than this. This one's not that bad so far. So this is the main division bar. So now I want you to write it as 1 over x minus 1 divided by x over x minus 1. Now write it as a multiplication. So 1 over x minus 1 multiplied by x minus 1 over x. This answer is wrong. Okay, look. On the top, 1 times x minus 1 is x minus 1. On the bottom, distribute the x, and you get x to the second minus x. That's wrong. Can anybody tell me why that's wrong? You can cancel the x minus 1s. I have, yeah, that's not an x, it's an x minus 1, but I have exactly an x minus 1 on the bottom. So as long as you have one on top and one on bottom, those can go away. So you actually must simplify those out, and so then your final answer is 1 over x, and you're done. Okay? Find the domain. The domain actually, let me look right here for 2 seconds. I messed up. So glad I caught that. Let me do domain on D, and then I'm going to go back to C, okay? So if you look at your answer, you have a restriction that x cannot be 0, okay? So definitely part of the domain. X cannot be 0. There is actually another domain restriction. Can anybody see it? Can anybody tell me what that would be? Say it again. It's a 1. Because even though it's not in the answer, if you look at all the denominators throughout the whole problem, those all have to be listed as restrictions. Therefore, x also cannot be a 1. Now, I did not do that over here, okay? So let's come over here. If you guys ever notice me making a mistake, please correct me, okay? I have no problem with that. I actually love it when people correct me because I know you're paying attention and I know that you understand. So I said everything. What's this really supposed to be, everybody?
X
X cannot be 1. Yep, so you have to look throughout the whole problem. Okay, good. Okay, let's come right here to question E. So this is going to be h of x divided by f of x. So, big long fraction bar. On the top goes your h of x, which is x over x minus 1. On the bottom goes your f of x, which is x squared minus 4. Make that main division bar division symbol. So it's going to be x over x minus 1 divided by x squared minus 4. Put a 1 underneath it, flip it upside down, so it's x times x minus 1 multiplied by x squared minus 4 over 1. Now I want to say something, so listen. X squared minus 4 factors to x plus 2x minus 2. If I factored it, did I make a mistake? I didn't flip it. Thank you. It's funny because I know you guys are so smart. So if I get one hand in the air, then I'm like, oh, that person doesn't understand. If I get 2 or more, I'm like, dang it, what did I do wrong? I know it's me. So I saw so many hands up. I'm like, had to be me. Okay, look. X squared minus 4 factors to x plus 2x minus 2. But if I did factor it, would it then allow any canceling to happen? Talk to me about that. No. So it doesn't do me any good, so I'm not going to do it. So on the top, 1 times x is x. On the bottom, multiply those together, and you get x to the third minus x to the second minus 4x plus 4, and that's my answer. Okay? Find the domain. Now, please don't do this. Some people do this. X to the third minus x to the second minus 4x plus 4 cannot be 0, and they try to deal with it that way. You don't have to do that, you guys. Deal with it in smaller and the easier form. So look what I'm talking about. I'm talking about here denominator and then here denominator. And honestly, I don't even care if you really showed work on that. So the x minus 1 tells you x cannot be 1. X squared minus 4, what restrictions does that give me? Plus or minus 2. Yep. And that's sufficient, and I'm done, and everything's good. Okay? This is going so much better than Friday. It's just crazy losing 10 minutes in class, what it does. It's just so stressful. Okay, so question F is f of x added to h of x. So write down your f of x, which is x squared minus 4. And add it to your h of x, which is x over x minus 1. Please do not be afraid of fractions, okay? You're so smart. You're capable of fractions. If you see a fraction and you panic, you've got to get over that. It's like a phobia. Here's fractions. Here's where you're functioning. Do not be afraid of something that is below where you're functioning, okay? I cannot add these fractions together because I don't, tell me. I don't have a common denominator. So I'm going to make it clean. Look, I'm going to put a 1 underneath. I'm going to get my common denominator, which is x minus 1. This guy is missing the x minus 1. So I have to multiply 1 by x minus 1. So therefore, I have to multiply the top by x minus 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put parentheses around those, and I'm multiplying x squared minus 4 times x minus 1. When I do that, I get x to the third minus x to the second minus 4x plus 4. Look at the next fraction. That guy already has the x minus 1. I'm not missing anything, so I'm just going to go plus x. And now I'm going to clean it up, so it's x to the third minus x to the second minus 3x plus 4 all over x minus 1, and I'm done. Okay? Make sure you read the directions. The directions said to find the domain, and the domain is x cannot be 1. And that's completely acceptable because they didn't tell me how to write it. Okay? All right, that was F. Okay, I am going to skip example 6, and I'm going to start with example 7. I'm skipping 6 because you can fill that in on when you watch the video, and I feel like this 7 and beyond is tougher. I might have time to go back to 6, we'll see. Okay, this is called the difference quotient. I used to see it on midterms and finals a lot. I feel like the probability of it being on there might be a little lower, but it's still pretty high, okay? This is what I want you to do. Highlight that right there. And then I have multiple colored highlighters. You don't necessarily have to get too crazy with that unless you want to. So, but this is a concept that people get confused on a lot, okay? The reason people get confused is because they don't understand what those three pieces mean, okay? So everybody draw an arrow right there. What does that mean? It means f of x plus h. You tell me. It means go in there and tell me. Wherever I see an x, keep talking, come on. Put in x plus h, okay? So I'm going to say put x plus h. Maybe I'll put it in parentheses just so you don't get confused. In for x. So wherever you see an x, put in an x plus h. Minus f of x means take a negative, distribute it in, so that means change the signs of f of x. And this blue thing just means divide by h. So those are easy to understand. Go in there, put in an x plus h. The pink one means change all the signs, divided by h. Who says, I understand that? Do a big raise, I want to see. Okay, that's the hardest part. So don't miss it because you know what those mean, okay? So let's go ahead and do this nice and slowly, okay? So I'm going to go right here. I'm doing the yellow. Wherever I see an x, I'm going to put an x plus h. So it's 2 times x plus h plus 1. Now, Weber State's going to want you to do this. Minus, in parentheses, f of x. 2x plus 1. That's the pink. A negative times your f of x, and it's all over h. Who says, I'm with you? I want to just give me a quick feedback with your hand. Okay, good. Can this h right here on the bottom cancel with this h on the top? Can those ones cancel? Tell me. No way. The top is crazy, right? You decide at the very end if you can cancel those. So on the top we're going to distribute. So you have 2x plus 2h plus 1. Distribute the negative. Negative 2x minus 1 all over h. Now let's simplify the top. So plus 2x minus 2x plus 1 minus 1. So now I have a 2h over h. Knowing how to cancel correctly is so important, okay? Everybody in the room tell me, can I cancel those h's, yes or no? I can. I can. I call them free. If something's just multiplied by something else, it's free. You can cancel it. It's free to be canceled. Look at this. If I had a plus 1, everybody listen to the story, and it will never, hopefully you'll never forget, okay? There are 3 best friends. Look, here's a person, here's a person, here's a person. Is it nice for this person right here and this person right here to go to the movies and not even invite that third friend? Is that nice or is that rude?
That's rude.
It's rude. You guys are not rude people, so you would never do that. So this is rude because you're excluding who? The 1. So no, you cannot cancel those h's, okay? But that's not what we had. How many best friends in this circle right here? You only have 2. You have a friend on the top and a friend on the bottom. Can they both go to the movies? Do they both have an H? Yeah. So those are gone. Your answer's 2, and you're good. Who says I understand? Let me see up high. Okay. Now, I'm going to do, this is going so much better than I didn't have any time on Friday. So I'm going to do one more easy one, and then I'm going to go to a tougher one. Or are we ready to take a step? Who says make it a little tougher? I think I'm ready. Who says not me, show me another pretty straightforward one? Only like 4 people are voting. Okay, we're going to go straight forward. Okay, f of x plus h means go here and put in x plus h. So you're going to go x plus h in parentheses squared plus 2 times x plus h minus 1. All that is f of x plus h. That's all that is. Now I have to do this pink, minus f of x. So now I have to go minus, and then parentheses, and then put in my f of x. And then it's all over h. Guess what? If you can make it to that, I think you have about a 95% chance of getting it right. When people miss it, they mess up on that step right there because they don't know what those three things mean. Who says, I understand how you got that? Raise your hand. Let me see. Okay, the toughest part is gone. The toughest part is complete. So guys, look. X plus h squared. Just do that in your head. That's x to the second plus 2hx plus h squared. You should be able to multiply that in your head. Okay, if not, start training yourself to do that, okay? Distribute the 2. 2x plus 2h minus 1. Distribute the negative. Negative x to the second minus 2x plus 1 all over h. Should I see if I could cancel with the h right now?
No.
When do I do that? The very end. And it's only if there's two best friends or if every best friend can go. Okay? So x squared minus x squared goes away. Plus 2x minus 2x go away. Plus 1 minus 1 go away. So what do I have now? I have 2hx plus h squared plus 2h minus h. How many best friends are in this particular circle of friends? How many best friends? 4. Friend, 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 friend. Can everybody go to the movies? Translate that. I'm not talking about the movies. They all have an H. That means they can all go to the movies. They all are participating. So we can do it. Take an H out of everybody. So it's 2x plus h plus 2 all over, tell me. All over, there really is something. It's a 1, but you don't have to write it. Okay? Okay, now I'm going to jump. It's going to get tougher. If I could do 2 more problems, which I think I can, I think you will understand this lesson. Okay. G of x plus h. Go into that g of x. Wherever you see an x, put an x plus h. Okay, look. 1 over x plus h. Look. It's wrong. That is wrong. It doesn't matter if it's a g of x or f of x. It doesn't matter. Look at this. G of x plus 1 means this. Scribble that out and replace it with, tell me, x plus h. So what's wrong with what I wrote? They all got to be on the bottom. That h is supposed to be where the x was, which is on the bottom. So it's 1 over x plus h. You scribble it out and replace it with an x plus h. Who says I understand? Raise your hand. Let me see. Okay, yay. Then it's minus the original function, which is 1 over x. And then it's all over. You don't have to remember the difference quotient formula. I have never seen a problem from Weber where they don't give it to you. But anyway, what's on the bottom? It's an h. Okay. Now, this is kind of complex. It's okay. You're smart. You can handle it. Look. See that main division bar? Keep it nice and long. On the bottom is an h. Someone tell me what I have to do on the top of that fraction. Common denominator. This x is tied to that h. That's one thing. So when you get a common denominator, just pull those together. So it's going to be x times x plus h. This guy has the x plus h. He's missing the x. So 1 times x is x. This guy has the x. He's missing the x plus h. So a negative 1 times x plus h is negative x. Tell me what to write right here. Minus h. A negative 1 times x is negative x. and negative 1 times h is minus h. Now, look at the top of the numerator of the numerator. X and minus x go away. So now I have negative h. I'm going to do a couple of steps in one, so watch closely. Negative h over x times x plus h. That's what I have in the top of that fraction. This main division bar is going to be written as a division symbol, and then I put an h. So I just kind of did two steps in one, okay? Put a 1 underneath, and then flip the second one. So it's negative h over x times x plus h minus 1 over h. Every year, my students can typically make it to this step, and then they mess up. This is a common place for people to make a mistake. Someone tell me what to do right now. Cancel. Always look to cancel first. Yes. So this h cancels with this h, and you have negative 1 over, distribute that x, and it's x to the second plus hx, and that's your answer. Okay, now let me say something. If your anxiety is high right now, if you feel stressed out, this is what I want to say to you. This is a topic where people commonly struggle. So give yourself a break and just keep working through it. You will get it. Okay, I'm going to do one more, hopefully. Okay, put in an x plus h right here. So it's 1 over x plus h plus 3. All I did is scribble out that h, or that x, and replaced it with x plus h. Then it's minus the original, and then it's all over h, like that. Who's with me? Are you with me? Just give me a yes or no. Good? Okay. If you're a no, you're going to be okay. Just breathe. I promise you. I've seen your transcripts. You're wonderful. Okay, let's keep going. The h is on the bottom. Common denominator on the top is x plus h plus 3 all over x plus 3. I'm just dealing with the top. This has x plus h plus 3. It's missing the x plus 3. So 1 times x plus 3 is x plus 3. This one has the x plus 3. It's missing the x plus h plus 3. Distribute the negative, and you have negative x minus h minus 3. Before I start flipping and all that, I'm going to simplify the top. So look, 1x minus x, negative 3 plus 3. So what do I have now? I have negative h over x plus h plus 3 over x plus 3. Make that main division bar a division symbol and put an h. Put a 1 underneath it. Flip it upside down. Negative h over x plus h plus 3 times x plus 3 multiplied by 1 over h. Before I multiply, what do I have to do? Look around and see if anything will cancel. This guy's free. He's not added or subtracted anything. This guy's free. He's not added or subtracted to anything. So your answer is negative 1 over x plus h plus 3 times x plus 3. It's okay that you still have parentheses in there. I'm telling you, if you get that far and you leave it like that, they're going to give you credit. Okay? Okay, I want you to put your pencils down for just a second. Listen, okay? There was still more, but we obviously have no time. Listen right here. This is a big class. We're going to get to know each other so well. I felt like today I had to keep saying, be quiet, here we go, be quiet, here we go. And I feel like if we would have cut out some of those be quiets, here we go, I would have had 5 more minutes on this lesson, and I would have been able to do like 2 or 3 more and you would have walked out of here going, bam, I totally get it. But because I had a little bit of transition things, then I think, stay still for just a sec, then I think it's hurting you. So we have to move quickly, and you have to work with me, okay? Okay, so I need you to finish watching the video. Fill in the problems that you have not